and deities. Narayanam namaskritya naranchaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, and to Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha padreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhatir bhavati naistiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all the troubles unto the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, with praise, with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharyane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we are going to start today a new chapter, which is called The Appearance of Sri Narada. So I'm going to read the Sanskrit and translation of the first verse. And then after Bhattayandi can continue reading the verses. This chapter is made of 33 verses. And so we are going to learn about the appearance of Narada Muni and why he appeared in front of his spiritual master, of his disciple. Vyasa uvacha iti bruvana samstuya muninam dirgasatrinam vriddha kulapatisutam Mavricha Shaunako Bravit. Vyasadeva said, on hearing Sutta Goswami speak thus, Shaunaka Muni, who was the elderly learned leader of all the rishis engaged in the prolonged sacrificial ceremony, congratulated Sutta Goswami by addressing him as follows. So the image is set. We are in a forest, the Naimisha forest. We cannot say the forest or Naimisharanya because Aranya means forest, it would be redundant. So the forest or Naimisha, and there were sages who were doing a sacrifice, and Sutta Goswami arrived. So when the rishi, headed by Shaunaka Muni, saw Sutta Goswami arrived, they thanked him for coming and said as follows. So, Bhattayandi, can you read it, please?
Yes. Shaunaka said, O Sutta Goswami, you are the most fortunate and respected of all those who can speak and recite. Please relate the pious message of Srimad-Bhagavatam, which was spoken by the great and powerful sage Shukadeva Goswami.
So we have more information here. First of all, we see how sages, they speak each other. They are very respectful. And they loved each other. And when they meet, they glorify. Of course, such a great devotee like Sutta Goswami we have a lot to say about these qualities, but it is very important that when we meet such a great devotee, we say something good about him. So, because it is very important that we let persons to let know that we like him, that we like he arrived. So it is very important to say something, and that something should be depending from the position of the person and our position respect to him. Just like when an important devotee comes to visit the temple, we present him to the people and we say who he is. So the tone and what we say should be balanced depending from the position of this person. If he is an initiating spiritual master, we should say he is an initiating spiritual master. If he's a sannyasi, then we should say he's a sannyasi and spend a few words and how important is the order of sannyasa, etc. So if the person is not, we should still present him with good words. We should not say things which is a little bit out of balance, like if a devotee comes, he comes from Vaikuntha, or we should be sober when we present somebody to people. And so our should be our presentation and glorification should be balanced. In this case, Shanaka Muni said to Sutta Goswami, first of all, that he was very fortunate. Why Sutta Goswami was so fortunate? Because he had a great father, Ramaharshana Sutta. Of course, somebody can say, wait a moment, Ramaharshana Sutta was killed by Balaram, and we are going to tell the story soon, And but still, Balarama blessed Sutta Goswami to know everything. He put his hand on the head of Sutta Goswami, who at that time was called Ugrashrava, and said he will represent his father. You know the story, more or less. Anyway, you don't know the story. Okay, so in a few words, Balarama arrives to Naimisharanya, and everybody got up because Balarama is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Is the first expansion, not expansion, is the first personality after the original personality of Godhead, who is Krishna. He is the first personality of Godhead, simply in another body. So everybody knew that. At that time, the sages, they were engaged in studying and talking about Vedic knowledge, and the guru at the time was Ramaharshana Sutta. Ramaharshana was very important. He was a direct disciple of Vyasadeva. So you can imagine, he was a disciple of Vyasadeva, and Vyasadeva entrusted him with the Puranas, which are the stories. So he was not a Brahmana by birth, and that's why he was entrusted in the Purana. He was qualified, but his birth had some importance, while the original Vedas was entrusted to Paila Rishi and other disciples, which are pure or Brahminical birth, not Ramaharshana. So he was an authority about the Purana. So he thought, I am the guru, so he should pay obeisances, But Balarama got offended because he said, if he is a guru, he is not qualified because he didn't recognize me. So Balarama felt offended that Ramaharshana did not get up. He took a blade of grass and touched him, and he killed him. So at the point, the sage, the Naimisharanya sage, told Balarama, you are free, you are independent, you can do whatever you want. But now, who who is going to tell us the Purana? The Puranas are the most important scripture in Kali Yuga, not the Vedas. The Puranas and the Itihasas are the most important scriptures. So now we don't have a spiritual master who is going to teach us. And Balarama said, well, if you want, I can bring him back from Maharshana. And they said, no, because whatever we don't want people to think that we are telling you that you did something wrong. Whatever you do is perfect because you are the personality of Godhead. But we still need the spiritual master. And Balarama said, okay, here is Ugrashra, Sauti, the Sutta Goswami, and I will empower him with the same knowledge that his father had. He touched his head, and so Sutta Goswami at that time became a great and powerful sage. Sutta Goswami eventually, you know the story, I told the story a couple of weeks ago. He was traveling, he arrived on the Ganga and the river, and there was a Shukadeva Goswami preaching to Maharaj Parikshit. And so he sat down, he heard Shukadeva Goswami telling the Bhagavatam. So after some time, Sutta Goswami arrived to Namisharanya, and the sages knew that Sutta Goswami was present during the Bhagavatam recitation of Shukadeva Goswami. So now they are asking him, please tell us what you heard. Okay, so he was very fortunate and very respected. One person that speak or recite the scripture should not be just a professional reciter, should be respected, a respectable person by everything, the way he behaves, the way he speaks, the way he dresses, everything he does should be respectable. And so they said, yes, you are qualified because you are a respectable person. Please relate the pious message of Srimad-Bhagavatam, which was spoken by the great and powerful sage Shukadeva Goswami. Okay, so we can go on to the verse number 3.
In what period and at what place was this first begun? And why was this taken up? From where did Krishna, Dvaipayana Vyas, the great sage, get the inspiration to compile this literature?
So I'm not going to tell you the answers because that's what we are going to read in a few verses. So this verse is called the appearance of Narada. So that's the answer. We are going to read it in a few verses. Okay, but you see how the sages, they had a lot of questions. You know, we know that the Bhagavatam, the whole Bhagavatam is based on 6 questions. Do you remember the 6 questions of the Bhagavatam? I spoke about it a few weeks ago. I myself don't know, but that does by memory, of course. The first question was, what is the ultimate benefit for mankind? The second question is, what is the essence of all scriptures? The third question, for what reason did the Lord take his birth from Devaki? Fourth question, describe the wonderful deeds of the Lord when he assumed the forms of Brahma, Rudra, etc., for the purpose of creating, maintaining, destroying the universe. Fifth question, fully describe the activities of Lord's reincarnations within this universe. Sixth and last one, where has religion taken shelter after Krishna has retired to his own abode? So the question number 1, you find it in the verse 119. Question number 2, 1111. Question number 3, 1112. Question number 4, 1117. question 5, 1118, question 6, 1123. So I have here noted where the answers are to be found. But, you know, we are going to talk about later. I don't want to charge you with too many technical things at the beginning. So let's proceed to verse number 4.
His, Vyasadev's son, was a great devotee and equibalanced monist whose mind was always concentrated in monism. He was transcendental to mundane activities, but being unexposed, he appeared like an ignorant person.
Yes. So Shukadeva Goswami took a part of a monist, that is Ekantamatihi. Ekantamatihi means he was fixed in transcendence. So someone may say, wait a moment, but Shukadeva Goswami is Krishna's parrot, Radharani's parrot in Goloka Vrindavana. How could it be so? How could they have forgotten everything and become a monist, become someone fixed just in transcendence and not in the transcendental activities? You know, that's because he did an offense to Shiva and Parvati, and so when he was chased by Shiva, who went after him with his Trishula, with his trident to kill him, he took shelter in Vyasadeva's wife and stayed in her womb for 16 years. And during these 16 years, he just became very confused because of the curse. He became confused. He forgot about the pastimes that he saw, etc. But he only worried about the spiritual world and not what happened in the spiritual world. And he became a Kantamatihi, as the verse 144 is telling us. But he appeared as an ignorant person, Mudha. Mudha means ignorant as a donkey, stupid person. So one of the reasons why someone who is very advanced in spiritual life does not want to show up is because he's very much afraid that people coming to him may contaminate him. So he tries always to blend in and not to make a big show, arrive into a temple and, you know, Haribo, look at me, you know. When there is a kirtan, it's not necessary that you go in the first position, in pole position. You can stay wherever you arrive to, you know. And of course, the people will try to respect you and say, please come in, and then you accept and you go. But in your mind, someone who is truly advanced in spiritual life does not like to show off. He tries to be modest and humble because Maya is very strong. Mama Maya Duratyaya. And if you take a position too much of a social position, you can become confused unless you are really an avatar. You know, that's why we find very nice stories about the devotees' modesty in our scripture, like Madhavendra Puri, that he was hiding himself because wherever he went, he had thousands of people glorifying him and doing kirtan and offering him garlands and all these things. He didn't like it because an advanced devotee feels that he's just a servant, that he doesn't deserve personally the glorification. But then he accepted because he thinks, this is for my spiritual master. This is not for me. You know, if it was not for my spiritual master, nobody would offer me anything. know. So Shukadeva Goswami tried to blend into a type of society where people were looked upon as stupid, ignorant, like bums in the street. Nobody is going to glorify a bum in the street, because you think that is dirty, that is stupid, that is a loser, that is a failure. But we want to glorify big politicians, big artists, big things. So he tried to appear as a Muda, as a foolish person. Okay, let's go on to the verse number 5.
While Sri Vyasadeva was following his son, beautiful young damsels who were bathing naked covered their bodies with cloth, although Sri Vyasadeva himself was not naked. But they had not done so when his son had passed. The sage inquired about this, and the young ladies replied that his son was purified, and when looking at them made no distinction between male and female, but the sage made such distinctions.
Yes. Of course, we know the Vyasadeva is a Shakti avatar, but still, his social position was that one of a grihasta, a family man. A family man has to makes distinction, because obviously he got married with a woman and not with a man, or not with a cat or with a bird. So in this case, someone gets married to a woman because he sees the woman, the body. So he makes distinction. And but Shukadeva Goswami, he was a monist, completely transcendental, and made no such distinction. In his mind, he just saw bodies, bodies. And body, there is no difference, chemical, from the chemical point of view, there is no difference whatsoever from a male body, a woman body, a dog body, just a body, just the same elements, material elements. So that's the damsels who saw Shukadeva Goswami arriving, they understood that Shukadeva Goswami was not looking to their bodies as something attractive, but it was just a body. But Srila Vyasadeva was a grihasta, so he had to look to the bodies of a woman, of a man, a disciple, or a servant, or like the spiritual master. So that's why the young dancers, they didn't cover their bodies when Shukadeva Goswami passed through, while they did when Vyasadeva arrived. So let's go on to the next verse.
How was he, Srila Shukadev, the son of Vyas, recognized by the citizens when he entered the city of Hastinapur, now Delhi, after wandering in the provinces of Kuru and Jangala, appearing like a madman, dumb and retarded?
Yes, these questions are going to be answered very soon. So let's go on.
Okay. How did it so happen that King Parikshit met this great sage, making it possible for this great transcendental essence of the Vedas, Bhagavatam, to be sung to him?
This verse it's a secondary question. It's not part of the main questions of the sages, but surely they wanted to know how Maharaj Parikshit came to know Shukadeva Goswami. And actually, the scriptures say that when somebody really wants a spiritual master, this desire that if it's enough strong and powerful in the heart, then Krishna appears in the form of the spiritual master. Actually, it is only by the mercy of Krishna that someone meets the spiritual master And it is by the mercy of the spiritual master that one meets Krishna. Yasha prasada, Bhagavat prasada, Yasha prasada, Yasha prasada nagati kutopi, Yayam stuvam stasyaya shastri sandhyam, Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. It is only by the mercy of Krishna that one meets a spiritual master. And so we should offer the utmost obeisances to the spiritual master. This is very, very important, because if we don't do that, then how are we going to get Krishna's mercy? Krishna's mercy is obtained by respecting the spiritual master. So let's go on to the verse number 8.
He, Swami, was accustomed to stay at the door of a householder only long enough for a cow to be milked, and he did this just to sanctify the residence.
Yes, every time a preacher goes in Sankirtan, sometimes they arrive to a house and they like the house. You know, they started to have some envy or some desire. Oh, if I had a house like that, I would be happier. So it is a rule that the traveling preachers, they should stay in the doorway of a house, not entering, but in the doorway of the house, just enough so that the person can give him a donation. Here, the example of milking a cow, because at that time, the wanderers, the beggars, they would come to get some food. So they said, okay, I will come. They go, they take milk from the cow, they give in the milk. So there was one example that the author gives just to make understand that someone should not be attracted to others' wealth because he's working for the wealth. You know? So you should not take the wealth away of people just because you are a preacher. You should be confined in Krishna's mercy, and everything that you need, you will have. If it doesn't come, Krishna doesn't want. If Krishna does not want, why you should want it? So that's why someone should choose. If someone wants to be a grihastha, he has to work. If someone wants to be a preacher, then it should be simple, not necessarily poor, but it should be simple, just enough from his life. If too much money comes, it is not good. Okay, let's go to the verse number 9.
It is said that Maharaj Parikshit is a great first-class devotee of the Lord, and that his birth and activities are all wonderful. Please tell us about him.
Yeah, there are very nice stories about Maharaj Parikshit. You know, Maharaj Parikshit was a pure devotee from his birth. He saw Krishna protecting him from the Brahmastra of Ashwatthama before he took birth. Well, he was already in the womb of his mother, Uttara. But we'll arrive to this story. Let's go on.
He was a great emperor and possessed all the opulences of his acquired kingdom. He was so exalted that he was increasing the prestige of the Pandu dynasty. Why did he give up everything to sit down on the bank of the Ganges and fast until death?
Yeah, because he was dying. He knew that he was about to die. He had 7 days. That's why he gave everything up. He had to, because he was going to lose it anyway. So he thought, I have 7 days to live. What is the best way to spend my last days of life? And so he met Shukadeva Goswami and asked him, what is the best way to spend my last days of life? And Shukadeva Goswami said, sit down and listen, Srimad-Bhagavatam. there is no better way to spend not the last 7 days, but the last 100 years that you still have to live. How long you are going to live? Some of us, maybe 10, 20, maybe one day, or maybe some of you who are particularly young can live other 60 years or 70 years. But you are going to die. So what is the best way to spend your 80 years of life? The answer is always the same. Just listen to Srimad-Bhagavatam, listen to the names of Krishna, his activities, his qualities, and serve the devotees, serve the temples, serve people, and your life will be perfect. So let's go on.
He was such a great emperor that all his enemies would come and bow down at his feet and surrender all their wealth for their own benefit. He was full of youth and strength, and he possessed kingly opulences that were difficult to give up. Why did he want to give up everything, including his life?
He did a grave offense. There was this sage whose name was Shamikarishi. He was meditating. Of course, we are going to see, whoever of you have read the Mahabharata know the story, of course, that Maharaj Parikshit was arrived to the hut of this great sage, Shamikarishi, and he was thirsty, and he asked for some water, but the Rishi did not answer, did not tell him, did not welcome him. So Maharaj Parikshit said, "Oh, you are rude. Your king arrived to your house. You didn't tell him welcome." Shamikarishi didn't welcome him because he was meditating. He didn't even see him coming. And so Maharaj Parikshit, he was disturbed with thirst and the Lord's will, actually. And he took the dead body of a snake and put him around his neck, saying, "This is the garland that I prepared for you, O Brahmana." Now, Brahmanas, you should give him a garland, okay? So I'm giving you a garland. This is the garland you deserve, that body of a snake, because you are envious of the Kshatriyas. So he did this grave offense, and then he deserved to die. Of course, we all know that Krishna wanted all this to happen, but we had to look to the stories also from another perspective, from the absolute perspective. If we look to things from the absolute, there is nothing you can learn, because everything is Krishna's will. Okay, so there is nothing to talk about. That's Krishna's will. Oh, why he did that? That's Krishna's will. Krishna's will. He don't say anything. But then there are other perspectives, and from this other perspective, you can learn something philosophical. This is a tattva perspective. From the rasa perspective, there is not much to say. Why Krishna did that? Krishna did that because he wanted to. He liked to. And why he did the other? Because he wanted to. He wanted to. There is nothing to talk. But from the tattva point of view, there is a lot to learn. And we had to learn it because we should not make the same mistake. Because offending a sage, even if the sage was actually guilty of something, in the case of Shamikarishi, he was not guilty of anything. But even if he was just rude, he didn't care about guests, he didn't care about the king, etc., still you cannot do that. Still the Brahmanas should be respected. And so we had to learn from this story that if we don't respect devotees, then you'll be cursed. This is the gravest of offense, offending a devotee. Okay, so let's go on to the verse number 12. Okay, I want to say that if any of you has any question, you can either just write it down. We still have some 10 or 15 minutes to go before we open the gates for questions. You can also raise your hand, not physical hand, the other one, how you say, the virtual hand of the program, so that I know how many questions will be. Because if there will be no question, that I continue. If I see that there are many questions, that I may shorten the class, because I cannot speak much today, so I have some limited time. And so if you have any question, write it down, raise your hand, just like Bhatta and just did, and I know that. Okay, let's go on, read the 12, verse number 12.
Those who are devoted to the cause of the personality of Godhead live only for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. They do not live for any selfish interest. So even though the emperor, Parikshit, was free from all attachment to worldly possessions, how could he give up his mortal body, which was the shelter for others?
See, this is an interesting point, because Parikshit did not have the right to renounce to the throne. He did not have the right to offend a sage and then get cursed. That was his guilt. And this is what here the Naimisharanya sages are making this point, that you are not right to offend the sage, because now we are without a king. You see, this is a very nice perspective. Other perspectives, oh yeah, he did a mistake, now you have to pay, But this Parikshit, we want a Parikshit. If today we had a Parikshit, our societies would be way better. We love monarchy if we have a good monarch. Otherwise, we have this useless democracy, which Prabhupada called democracy, and you vote for people you don't know. So how can you want somebody in any office if you don't know the person? So you should know the person. But if you have these great personalities, and like Parikshit or Yudhishthira, then you want another type of rule in our societies. And the Srimad-Bhagavatam is full of description of what a kingdom is with a saintly king. But if you don't have saintly king, then you cannot have monarchy. First the monarch and then the monarchy, not vice versa. You cannot train somebody to be a saintly king. Either he's saintly or he's not saintly. So this is a very nice point that the sages are making, that Parikshit was not the owner of his body. He had to care for it. He had to be careful not to do mistakes like that, because his body was the shelter for others. Very nice point. Okay, let's go on. Number 13.
We know that you are expert in the meaning of all subjects, except some portions of the Vedas, and thus you can clearly explain the answers to all the questions we have just put to you.
Okay, what the sages are meaning, why they are saying that he was fully acquainted with the Vedas, but not all of them. I'm sorry, I took something from my sore throat. Because when Balaram blessed him he gave him the same knowledge that his father had. I told you the story, and I told the story also in other occasions. So since Roma, his father, Roma Harshana, was a Sutta and not a pure Brahmana by birth, he had not the right to know the Vedas, but only a section of the Vedas. But this applies also to Sutta Goswami, because he was his son. He also was not a pure Brahmana by birth. So he had the power and knowledge to know certain part of the Vedas and not Chandas, other parts of the Vedas. So, but since in Kali Yuga, and we are at the beginning of Kali Yuga here, and the Puranas and the Itihasas are the most important scriptures in Kali Yuga, not the Vedas, not the 4 original Vedas, not the Vedic knowledge is divided into parts. The Shruti and the Smriti. Shruti are the original Vedas. The 4 Vedas with the Upanishad, which because the Upanishad are part of the 4 Vedas. And then the Smriti is all that endless quantity of sciences and books which come from the Vedas, which come from the knowledge of the Vedas. But Shruti, only the 4 Vedas with the Upanishad. Okay, so someone in Kali Yuga, the Shruti are very difficult to understand, very, very difficult. You can read the Vedas, why not, if you have patience. You know, after some time you get tired of reading the Rig Veda because there are all these names and personalities and technical terms that you get fatigued. You get fatigued because you have questions and there is no guru to answer to you. So it's very difficult to study the Shruti. And only somebody who is born in a Brahminical family, who has been trained from the beginning of his life in understanding Vedas can understand. So that's why in Kali Yuga, since there are no Brahmanas who are very, very, very rare, then Puranas and Itihasas are the most important scriptures. Yeah? And Sutta Goswami was the authority of Puranas and Itihasa because his father was the authority of Itihasa. That's why the Srimad-Bhagavatam is told by Sutta Goswami and not by other of Vyasadeva's disciples who were present there. There are so many great sages like Kashyapa, Angira, others. They were very important Brahminical personalities, but they were not the authority. Sutta Goswami was the authority, but the power that Balarama gave him. And because he understood Puranas and Itihasa, now he was qualified to teach it. And here we are very lucky to be here reading and hearing the Srimad-Bhagavatam from him. Okay, let's go on to the verse number 14. And here begins the answers of Sutta Goswami from the verse 14.
Sutta Goswami said, when the 2nd millennium overlapped the 3rd, the great sage Vyasadeva was born to Parashara in the womb of Satyavati, the daughter of Vasu.
Yeah, the right diction is Parashara, Satyavati. There is no accent in Sanskrit. So if you say Parashara, you are putting an accent on the second A, which is not correct, because in Sanskrit there is no accent. So here he said the 2nd millennium overlapped the 3rd. Do you know what that means? I'm sure all of you know, but the story is that a Divya Yuga, also called Mahayuga, is formed by are divided in 4 sections: Satya Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Kali Yuga. This is the normal proceeding of ages. But in this Mahayuga, Dwapara Yuga came third. So in this Mahayuga, 1,000 of this Mahayuga makes 1 day of Brahma. So in this Mahayuga, we have Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. And why was that? Because Krishna appears. Krishna appears 1 time every day of Brahma. That means every 1,000 of this Mahayuga, also called Divya Yuga, Krishna appears. And because Krishna wants to appear at the beginning of Kali Yuga, before the Kali Yuga begins, because Kali Yuga begins when Krishna leaves this planet, so then the good qualities, otherwise the people will not, it will not be nobody to appreciate Krishna's appearance, then all the good qualities of Kali Yuga are moved in the 3rd position. And so we have an overlapping. Dwapara Yuga goes 3rd, and Treta Yuga comes 2nd. Treta means 3, and Dwa in Sanskrit means 2. So the 2 becomes 3, the 3 becomes 2. Is that clear? Yes or no?
The quality part was a little, I understand like they flip, but the qualities.
Right. Every yuga has its own set of qualities, natural qualities. The people in Satya Yuga, they live longer than any other age. They are more intelligent. They are more sattvic, which means more good, more better people, etc., etc. So naturally, people are better in Satya Yuga. In the 2nd age, in the Dwapara Yuga, they still, a lot of qualities are there, but it's not the case that in Satya Yuga there is no Kshatriya. The Kshatriyas start to come in Dwapara Yuga, in the 2nd age, because there is nothing to defend people from, because there are no, there are no disturbances. In Treta Yuga, there's some people, bad people start to appear on this planet, and then you need Kshatriya, you need kings, and the qualities of people start to decline a little bit. In the 3rd age, even worse. In Kali Yuga, is catastrophe. People just do not, they do not understand, and it's so difficult to find people even that they want to listen about Krishna. They're so disturbed, so envious, so lazy that they don't want to. They have no quality to understand Krishna consciousness. And so when the flipping of the 2 ages happened, the qualities inherent to each age also transferred with the age. Okay? It's more clear? If not, tell me, because I can explain it, try to explain it in another way.
Yeah, so it's like
clear. Okay. Not only the age or the name of the age flips over, or it goes in another, but everything that is inside also follows the name of the age. So the good people of Dwapara Yuga, they appear in the 3rd Yuga, and the less good people appears in the 2nd Yuga, and the 2nd Yuga of the 4 Yuga of the Mahayuga.
So there's like a mixture then. So since it's like the better yuga comes after, and the more degraded yuga comes first, there's like okay.
Yes, yeah. No, they don't mix, because all the people who deserve to appear in the 2nd age, the better age, they appear in the 3rd age. because it's just a question of who you are. If you are good people, then you appear during Dwapara Yuga. And if you are a less good person, you appear in Treta Yuga. Whenever the Treta Yuga appears, you take your birth during that period. Okay, so when the second millennium overlapped the third, so in Dwapara Yuga becomes third, Vyasadeva was born to Parashara Muni in the womb of Satyavati, the daughter of Vasu. All of you must have read the Mahabharata at this time, and you know perfectly the story. If you don't, get the Mahabharata. I spent countless hours working on the English version of the Mahabharata, the whole story of how and why Vyasadeva took birth to Satyavati by the sage Parashara Muni, the daughter of it's all there. It's a very nice story. Vyasadeva was called with two names when he took birth: Krishna, because it was dark, and Dvaipayana. Dva means two, Pai means water. So he was born in an island in the middle of the river Yamuna. That's where he took birth. And then he was called Vyasa. Vyasa, V means to cut. Asa means the scripture. So he was cutting the knowledge that he was thousands of years that he was, I would say, repeated by learned person to his disciples. So then after repeated, it was, I would say, the knowledge came down from the millenniums, etc. But we were at the beginning, almost at the beginning of Kali Yuga. People would not understand all these things. So he took pieces of the Vedic knowledge and he assembled them and he put them into writing. And this is the position of a Vyasa. Vyasa is a spiritual master, the one who tells you what you can understand. What's the point of saying something that if you don't understand? Okay, so this is the service of a Vyasa. All Vyasa always appear in the third age, at the little before the beginning of Kali Yuga, so that the people during the age of Kali can be saved. And the Vedas are the only instrument for salvation. The gurus and the scriptures, which is the same thing. The guru is just a scripture that speaks. The guru is a person, and the scripture is it's a written word, but it is the same. You cannot make any difference between the guru, the qualified guru, highly qualified guru, and the scripture. There is no difference whatsoever. The difference between the scripture and the guru, that the guru can talk to you when the scripture talk to everybody. So that's why everybody should have a guru, so that he can be instructed. Okay, let's go on to one or two verses, and then we open the gates for questions.
Once upon a time, he, Vyasadeva, as the sun rose, took his morning ablution in the waters of the Sarasvati and sat alone to concentrate.
Yes. The ablutions, it's like you don't just get up and take breakfast. You get up, you take your shower, you have to do that, you have to put your tilak, you have to dress as a respectable person, and then you have to do your meditation, and then you have to do your Vedic mantras and dua chamana and all these things, you know. Of course, Srila Prabhupada did not have the time, or we were not qualified to understand all these things, which are so many, you know, but at least we should know that when in the morning, early in the morning, when you get up, there would be so many things to do. And these things change your life, change your day, and so your life. So 16, and then we stop here for today.
The great sage Vyasadeva saw anomalies in the duties of the millennium. This happens on the earth in different ages due to the unseen force of time.
Yes, so Vyasadeva saw that something was wrong. Remember, he was at the end of Dwapara Yuga. And what wrong thing he saw? The Kali Yuga was coming. That's what he saw. So he understood that he had no time. He had to act, and he because he see that the age was changing, and the horrible Kali Yuga age is coming, and there will be so much suffering, people dying for disease, and people dying from the disturbances by the earthquakes and all this disaster that happens. You know, there will be no peace. We will always be on the brink of wars and killing each other for no reason whatsoever. So this is going to be bad. So Sage Vyasadeva didn't think, oh no, who cares? I am Vyasadeva, you know. They can do whatever they want. He didn't think that. He thought, I had to do something for these poor people. And that's why we exist and we are talking about these things, because he thought that way. He was a merciful sage. Daya means mercy. He was very merciful. And he said, no, I had to do something for these people. And now we are going to see what he did starting from the next week. Okay, so now we have 2 raised hands. If anyone else wants to make questions, please raise your hand. But Andy.
Hey Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for still continuing to do the class, even though you weren't feeling too well. I really appreciate that. My first question it's not really too much on topic, so I hope that's okay. But in the Bhagavad Gita, it talks about how the soul is immutable. So the soul, it doesn't change. And so because the soul doesn't change, it can never like transform into like the infinite, you know. Into Prabhupada gives the example of how like the atomic soul can't transform itself and become like the infinite soul, like the supreme soul. And so I guess that brought me to the question of, if the soul isn't changing and but it comes into contact with like the material energy and becomes like contaminated, so it's not changed. So then like what exactly is happening to the soul as it's getting covered? If that makes sense.
Yes, Srila Prabhupada responds to this nice question, and he says, just like a diamond is pure, but if you put it into the dirt, it becomes covered. The dirt does not get into the diamond, but it is all over. So you don't see it. You don't see the colors, you don't see the resplendence, the beauty of the diamond. But the diamond is never contaminated. The soul never becomes contaminated, becomes covered. We have explained quite some time, also numerous times, the philosophy of Upadhi. this word is very important, because the Upadhi tells us that we are covered by things that are completely unnatural for us. And that material things gets value because we project in our mind value in them. The thing in itself does not have an objective value. There is no attractive things in the world that there is nobody who doesn't feel attracted to. The most beautiful woman, a dog does not even look at her. Who look at her? So the beauty is not in the woman. The beauty is that we see her as beautiful. If we cook a very nice dish, and it's very maybe a pig does not even want to eat it because he prefers to eat something else. So the attraction or the pleasure in eating is not in the food. It's our mental projection that we project pleasure in this thing. So objective attraction does not exist in this material world. It is our upadhi. We project value in things that have no value. So the soul never changes. The soul always remains the same, but it becomes covered by Maya. And we have qualities, and these qualities gets into this filter of Maya. And our original transcendental intelligence becomes material intelligence, which is faulty, which is insufficient, which is not very intelligent also in self. We have a mind. The soul has a mind. But then it goes through the filter of false identification and becomes a material mind. The soul has senses, but then it goes through the filter of false identification with the body, and we use these material senses. We don't need to use these material senses to be happy. We have spiritual senses. But now we don't see them, we cannot use them, we can only use this. And this is spiritual realization, that we can realize that the soul has an intelligence, has a mind, has a senses, has a personality, has a capacity of speaking, hearing, willing, desiring, etc., which at the present moment is contaminated. It's contaminated. But by purification, Chetodarpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavak, Nirvapanam, cleaning the mirror of our consciousness, then we go back to our original transcendental personality with everything that it entails. Okay, so to wrap up the answer to your question, the Bhagavad Gita says the soul is unchangeable. If we see changes, if we see changes in the soul, we actually look in the wrong way. The soul hasn't changed. It's just the thing that is outside the soul that made us behave in the wrong way. But the soul is already there. It's always, it never changes. Is that clear?
Yes, thank you.
Mati Rosario?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances and my reverence. I heard, I don't remember when, that there are several Kali Yugas. Could you please explain to me a little bit about that? Because it was my understanding that Krishna departed this planet when Kali Yuga was beginning. And then how is it that there are other Kali Yugas?
Yes. A day of Brahma is composed of 1000 Mahayuga. Mahayuga is divided in 4 yugas. Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga in this case, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. So in one day of Brahma, there are 1000 Kali Yugas.
Oh my goodness.
So
one day of Brahma,
there are 1000 Kali Yugas. 1000 of Satya Yugas, 1000 of Treta Yuga, 1000 of Dwapara Yuga. That's one day of Brahma. And then there is the night. It lasts the same period. And this is one day of Brahma. And Brahma lives 100 years. Some Puranas say 104 years. Anyway, 100 years of these days. So you just can calculate how long Brahma lives. It's a long, long life. And he's just at the middle of his life. His 50 years has begun.
Well, I don't know if I will ever understand all this.
Oh, it's not easy. Of course, it takes time. It takes study. It takes, I wrote some books where there is all these mathematical calculations. And I'm trying to make it clear in my next English book. I'm just waiting for Batin Rosalind to get his new computer so that I can publish this new book. And in this new book, there are all the mathematical calculations about the divisions of time. There are there in the Bhagavatam. I'm just trying to make it easier and understandable to everyone. But we can, thanks to the information of the Purana, we can determine exactly where we are by the year, where we are in Brahma's life. Of course, someone can say, it is really important for me to understand all this. Oh, you can chant Hare Krishna, be happy, of course.
Yes.
But if somebody wants to know, he can know. We have different personalities. We can say, chant Hare Krishna, your life will be sublime. But somebody can say, okay, I want to chant Hare Krishna. It's so beautiful, my life is sublime, but I am curious. I'm curious. Some of us is more curious than other people. So you have to, if you represent Vyasadeva, who spend a lot of time explaining these things, because I remember when I was very, very young, we all were very young. All the studios devoted, they were called mental speculators. I was one of those. I was always reading. And the devotees say, you are just speculating with your mind. And well, the fact is, if these things are in the scriptures, means somebody has written them. And we know who wrote the scriptures. So if Vyasadeva wrote these things, then it is not superfluous, otherwise he would not have done it. But of course, not everyone is curious. Don't forget, we are made fundamentally of 3 qualities: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Chit means curiosity. You wake up in the morning, you open your eyes, where I am, You look at yourself in the mirror, oh, I'm still here, the same person, maybe getting old, but I'm the same person. And we always look around and saying, what is the temperature? What is what's happening outside? Curiosity. 24 hours a day, we are curious to know everything. This is the Chit Shakti. We are made of curiosity. Curiosity means knowledge, because you are curious about something and you want answers. Today is going to be sunny or not. You know, I've been accustomed to 15 years without, this is my first winter after 15 years. I tell you, it's not nice, you know. So when I was staying before, I didn't have to worry about what was the sky, because the temperature was going to be always the same. Now, when I get up in the morning, today is going to be sunny or not. Curiosity. I want to know. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
So, any other question? We have some 10 minutes more, and then we can close. But
Hare Krishna. I had a question about Kali Yuga and how Krishna saves, like, my understanding is that we only are granted the ability to return, or yeah, I guess the ability, or the possibility to return back to Golok Vrindavan in Kali Yuga, and this opportunity isn't available to us in like Satya Yuga or Treta Yuga. Or so first, is that correct? Like, we're only in Kali Yuga we're able to return to Goloka Vrindavan?
No. You can return anytime.
Oh, okay.
You can return anytime. The point that has been made by some acharya is that in Kali Yuga, in one sense, it's easier. You know, it's easier. You can imagine, of course, in this earth, in this planet, even the richest man on earth is never happy because it's so much misery in this. But you can just project for one moment and think what's happening in the heavenly planets, where there is no disease, there is no old age, people just die. It's no old age. And there are so many beautiful things. Nature is beautiful, nobody's polluting anything. And you're always happy because you are in the sattva attitude, mental attitude, etc. You don't suffer. So if you don't have some type of suffering, how are you going to develop a desire to leave this material world and go back to the spiritual world when everything is okay? Very difficult. So, of course, suffering is not the only thing you need. You also need some intelligence, because some people just cannot understand that they are suffering. They think, well, this is life. This is not suffering. You call it suffering, but this is just life. No, I call it suffering. But I am happy. No, you're not happy. You have some absence of pain in this moment, and you have some stupid thing that makes you a little excited, but this is not happiness. Happiness, because you don't know what is happiness. That's the problem. They don't have point of reference. If they would have a point of reference, then they would understand. When someone tastes the sweetness of Krishna's name and pastimes and life in Krishna, they have some point of reference. And whatever is very attractive and beautiful in this world, a person who is advanced in Krishna consciousness can say, no, this is nothing. This is 1 second of pleasure, 1 minute of pleasure, 10 days a week that you are going to pay dearly, because nothing is free of charge in this world. If you are happy today, you are going to pay this happiness with some misery in some time. Are you ready to pay? Okay, you know, but it's not very wise. It's not wise to pay with suffering your present pleasure. Better to go to discover if there is superior happiness with no charge. This is what great acharyas like Srila Prabhupada, Vyasadeva, since we are talking about Vyasadeva, are giving us a type of pleasure which has no charge, negative charge. You are happy because you are happy. You don't have to pay for it. So Kali Yuga, there is some pleasure and some suffering, so you can see the difference. And because the people are less intelligent, they cannot understand that happiness is not happiness. Because if they would be intelligent, like the Vedic Brahmanas, they would be scared to death. What is this? This is nothing. The greatest happiness in this material world, being rich, being, etc., etc. If you are intelligent, you're not going to enjoy any of this because you understand. You want more. You want what the soul wants. And the soul wants a transcendental happiness that you cannot be found in this material world, cannot be found. So everything is balanced, less happiness, but the people are less intelligent. So they appreciate some happiness, but then suffering comes and they say, no, I don't want this. I want Krishna consciousness. And when your desire is strong in your heart, it is called Shraddha, the Shraddha stage. Shraddha stage means you start to desire liberation. You start to say, no, I don't want this. This is useless. I want something more. And then Krishna, who is in your heart, thinks, this person is ready. He wants it very hard. So I will give him the most precious of things, which is called Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha means the company of devotees. And everything starts from there. Then at the end, you get Prema Bhakti. Prema is the highest stage of perfection of life. Gradual trip toward perfection. But everything starts from this. What do you want? What do you want from your life? You want money? Work. I don't envy you. I prefer to be poor and chant Hare Krishna than be working all day long full of anxiety. You want Krishna consciousness? Then Krishna will give it to you. Okay, so I think we have some 5 minutes, maybe the last question, then we close. Before seeing if there is any last question, I want to remind everybody that we have our nice projects in Krishna consciousness and now are in full swing. The project of our library. At the present moment, we have only, quote unquote, 7,853 documents in our library, ishvara.org, ishvara.org, and for several purposes, included for funds, because everything costs, we have created 3 areas. One area will always be free. So many articles you can read by free. The second area is under subscription, so you can help us a little bit. That's nothing, it's just maybe $1 per month. I can't believe you don't have $1 per month. And then the third area is just my private area where I work for my books. Books are coming out. We are working in several books. The Tattva Sandarbha in Spanish. Martin Rosario is working in the Tattva Sandarbha. We had 2 or 3 Italian books we corrected because one very nice Italian devotee came who is highly educated. So he corrected my old books, 2 of my old books, and he pointed out some mistakes that were there. And I want to take the occasion to say that I'm really sorry if in my books there is a mistake. I can say that I try very hard, but I'm not a professional writer. I'm just a devotee. I'm trying to do whatever I can to do things in the best way possible. And I confide that with your help, I can do things better and better. And so this is the library that now, after almost 1 year of work, actually more than 1 year in work, there were many technical problems that we overcame. And then there is the bookstore, and the bookstore where I publish my books. We have many, many books already published in 3 different languages. This is, if any of you has any interest in what I do during the day and night, this is what I do. Almost 40, I wrote until now, almost 40 books. And so I'm very happy that to be doing this service for people. Okay, so any last question? Then we will meet again next Thursday at the same time. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you very much.
Please take good care of yourself.
Yes, I will take care.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank you
Hare
very much.
Thank you very much. Manonatha Maharaj ki jai.
Hare 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 Hare.
Thank you.